Like, why don't you talk to me?
All right, Baltimore Flava Radio, live on radio5.com. What are y'all talking about?
Jen, acting all funny.
About chicken nuggets. Like,
chicken nuggets.
Chicken boxes.
Oh, it's always chicken boxes on Wednesdays.
Always, and we have yet to get one. We have yet to get one. I thought Roberto was gonna bring us some donuts or something, but
nobody told me. We have to told these things.
Right.
Hey, we had that one guest that brought us donuts. Remember the politician?
I wasn't there. Who brought us donuts?
Yes, you were. One of the
Wasn't donuts.
Cupcakes. Whatever they were. Okay. See, you should have been there that night. That's a night. I thought she was the politician that when we were at the old spot.
Which politician?
His name was King. No, that wasn't. He wasn't. He was running for comptroller. He was running for same thing.
Same
thing. He was in charge of the money. He was trying to be in charge of the money. She was. Yeah, you were there.
Why didn't I get no cupcakes of all things?
No, different person. He wasn't the one with the song.
No, that was the one that wanted to run for me.
No, that was the one that wanted to run for me.
But clearly something was wrong because y'all know me not to I wasn't there.
To eat.
That's why it didn't happen.
And then we had one that brought us Swiss rolls, and you definitely weren't there because you were on vacation. And I was like, Jen would have loved this.
You lying.
Still waiting for that remix.
She would have flew home.
Right, exactly. Red eyes.
Swiss rolls. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, would have got here in like an hour.
Yeah.
All right, we're back with journalist Roberto Alejandro, and he's really been like putting it down with some of the stuff that he's been doing. Very impressed. How long have you been doing like the hip hop scene as far as covering artists and the events? Because you're like everywhere, man.
Yeah, I mean, really, it hasn't been that long. Maybe, On Background became my exclusive focus like January.
Okay.
I've had the site a little longer than that, but in terms of its exclusive focus, it's just been since this past January. So it was, I think, maybe last November was when I first started doing some stuff with hip hop. One of the unfortunate things about sort of more established Black media outlets here in the city is they don't mess around with hip hop much. That's not
at all
what
unless an artist is getting killed.
Oh, exactly. And so the landscape is kind of more for like the church folks, right? Like the good Sunday hat church folks. And so hip hop doesn't get a lot of attention here in Baltimore, unfortunately. And so, I never really...
The views expressed by Roberto.
Peace to the good ones. But, I didn't get that many opportunities to interact with hip hop prior to that. While I was at the Afro, I think I profiled one artist, and, her story had a bit to do with the fact that she was bipolar and her navigating, that issue within the context of being a poor person in Baltimore City. And that was Lady B. But really, it's just been sort of since like last November, it kind of started. I met some guys at the Million Man March, and they were MCs here. And so, the first hip hop session was with some of those guys that I did for the website. And then it's just, since January. And, I know Last Born Child is a friend of the show, and he's been great to me in terms of connecting me to different people and artists all over the city.
He knows everybody.
Yeah, he knows everybody.
Knows everybody.
And, I just try to work as hard as I can. Over time, I think I've been able to develop a bigger presence than I have because I just stay grinding. I just try to, keep working and be at as many places as I can be while also doing everything that's necessary to do to keep the website going. But it hasn't been that long, but it's been a thorough engagement, let's say.
So give us like an assessment on your thoughts of the Baltimore hip hop scene.
I think the Baltimore scene is pretty dope, man. I think it's kind of slept on too. I mean, especially for someone who came up listening to that 90s era of hip hop. There's like a great hip hop renaissance occurring here in Baltimore, from certainly, we have our legends like Last Born Child, but we have young guys like Ill Conscious. Guy Grams has put out 2 excellent albums that are both just solid hip hop projects.
So Guy Grams is so dope. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
it's ridiculous.
And certainly you got a lot of younger guys who are also dealing with the sort of more contemporary sounds, let's say, the trap style and all that. But you know, one of the things that's hard to deny about a place like Baltimore, whether you're covering hip hop or anything, is just how artistic this place is. Like I remember being in McKeldrey Park, and I'm walking by the playground outside of Trench Tillman, and you know, there's these kids and they're just like dancing. It's like, oh, you guys like getting ready for a talent show? It's like, no, we're just doing this. And it's like, okay, right? Like I was never a kid who was not so completely self-conscious that I could do something like this. But you know, this is a city that really embraces art.
But you actually used to see that a lot in the city growing up, like back in the days when I was coming up, because like, especially in the summertime, that was your way of staying off the corner.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
You know, so whether it was sports or whether it was dancing or whether it was getting together somewhere and having a cipher for like 3 hours, and they could like literally last that long. You used to see that, and it's surprising that you say that because you don't really see a lot of that anymore in the city.
Sure. I mean, obviously a lot has changed in Baltimore, especially over the last few decades. The population isn't as big as it once was, but that artistic soul of the city has not disappeared, you know? And I mean, again, it's like, you know, I might be walking down the street and somebody offers to sell me something. And I'm like, no, that's cool. But hey, do you happen to know like any MCs? Like, oh, I MC, you know, like, so even where people aren't necessarily looking for art is there. The question is, are we prepared to see the humanity in those places, you know, right? Because art is part and parcel of our humanity. And, you know, when we pretend that it doesn't exist in certain parts of our city, we're really making a statement about what we believe the humanity is in those places. And so, you know, which is simply to say that in as artistic a place as Baltimore, you're going to find some great hip hop, because you're going to find some people who aren't just talented, but they respect what hip hop is and what hip hop has been. And especially if you like that boom bap style, this is a good place to be listening to local hip hop.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that I love about hip hop artists in this city is, I mean, any artist worth their salt would love to have the opportunity to, you know, to get this major deal and you know, be making millions of dollars doing it. But most of the MCs or most of the hip hop artists here choose to stay independent, and with the understanding that we're doing it for the love of the culture. And if we happen to get to that next level, if we happen to be able to go through the pipeline and you know, make money, then so be it. But if not, you know, I'll work my 9 to 5 on, you know, Monday through Friday, and then Friday night and Saturday, you know, I'm gonna find me an open mic, or I'm gonna find me, you know, an event that's going on. And there's tons of events going on, like literally every day it seems like there's something going on hip hop wise in the city.
It's funny you mention that, because that's something that I both love and loathe about our hip hop community, because you're right, it is so much about the passion and the love for the art. But I worry sometimes that we have acts here who are just super talented, right? Just super good. And because like, they're like, yo, I do this for the love, and, you know, Baltimore's my city, this is where I want to be. I worry that maybe some of that limits their potential growth, or you know, limits them in terms of getting their art in front of as many people as possible. So, you know, I love that, but at the same time, I hope all of our hip hop artists appreciate that what they have is something very special, and that it should be shared as broadly as possible. And so, you know, I do worry sometimes that with some artists that gets in the way of them maybe taking some risks that they really should take.
It's kind of a catch-22, because I've heard a lot of guys since Lil Scooter passed away say that one of the reasons that Baltimore isn't going to that level is because you have a lot of people that are afraid to come here because of the violence, you know, not necessarily in hip hop, because you know, there aren't, you know, hip hop artists being killed like that, but just because of the violence and everything that's going on in this city in general. And you know, without mentioning any names, they said that you have, you know, people that are in the music industry that are from Baltimore that won't even come back and reach out, you know, for their own artists. So it's kind of hard when that reach, you know, is only but, you know, so far.
No, I agree. But I think that's why it also behooves our artists to make sure they're trying to get to some of the other cities in our area, Philadelphia, New York, DC, especially those ones that are larger cities than Baltimore, but are really close, right? It's a $20 boat bus ticket to New York, 4 hours. And you know, making sure that they're doing what they need to do to spread the art, because it's that what you said is absolutely right. And I've heard that from a lot of artists. Like, you know, if a Baltimore area artist is getting attention, they're probably from the county. You're right, because people don't want to deal with us here in the inner city. But one also has to sort of take that into account and say, well, if they're not going to come to me, then I need to go to them. You know, and I hope that our artists understand that what they have to offer is worth taking that chance. Because I think there's a much bigger audience for what is happening in hip hop here in Baltimore than just us here in Baltimore.
Jay, can you kind of touch on that? Because as a, you know, not just the artist, but you know, a person that, you know, is running a label, do you feel kind of like, you know, people don't reach back the way that they could, or like the artists here aren't hungry enough to, you know, to really stretch out?
Well, I think a lot of artists have a time span in their head of when they.
I need $1 million by next
No,
month.
no. So this is serious. They have like a time stamp on when they want something to happen. So it's like, okay, because I get a lot of times people sign contracts with me and think like tomorrow they're going to be on a large major tour, and it's like it doesn't work that way. You have to put in work. You have to be on your grind. You have to connect with people. There's people that can go to a club and perform. Out the door they go. They haven't networked with not one person in there.
God, I've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah, they have not even reached out. Like she can come in there and they wouldn't even say nothing to her. And she's got a platform for them to express their music. So I think then and again, it goes with me and him was just talking about off air was the media spread so much of negative of Baltimore that it's hard to overcome that because of everywhere I go. You gone out of town show and you gone out of town. Is Baltimore really like The Wire? Like, so it's like the picture that the media, like the news, portrays of us is that we are thugs, we're ruthless, and you can't do nothing here.
And it's sad because yes, Baltimore really is like The Wire to a certain degree, but there is. You got to realize that there's so much more to it. There's so much more to the city than that.
But I mean, it could be. I mean, it is the obvious, but at the same time, there is good parts of Baltimore, and there's good art within Baltimore. Like there's not like Baltimore Sun. I mean, he's a great dope artist, but he won't get that because the negative is there.
I mean, here's what I mean on the media side. I mean, I think it's is there truth to, you know, what we see in something like The Wire? Yeah, certainly. I mean, that truth exists in every major American city. Frankly, it exists in every minor American city, and it usually exists in some small scale and even sort of wealthy small towns like the one I grew up in Amherst, Massachusetts, right? There's no, I mean, it's like 95% white. That's very true. But there are a few, there are poor people there, and there are the sort of violent crime that you hear about is generally limited to a very small segment of the population. And the simple truth is most of the people who want to talk about Baltimore as The Wire in the media, in terms of what you're saying, we don't spend time in those places. And our experience of Baltimore is like the Inner Harbor and like, you know, Mount Vernon. And then we want to be like, yeah, Baltimore's The Wire. Not the Baltimore, you know, so why are you talking about it like that? You know, I mean, I've been, you know, in parts of Baltimore where I was talking to some guys on the corner. I walk away 1 block and I start hearing gunshots, right where I was just standing. But that's hardly the majority of my experience, even in those neighborhoods, right? The majority of my experiences in those neighborhoods is talking to people who are trying to do something about the violence, trying to find a way to instill greater self-esteem and self-worth in our young people. And for us to focus almost exclusively on the challenges and to ignore the fact that so many of our citizens are working diligently and with no support from our elected officials, no meaningful support from our elected officials on these problems, I think is a fault of the media. And to the extent that we contribute to the lack of investment in this city, that requires a looking in the mirror.
We can go on with
Bingo.
that for about 8 hours. Yeah, I really appreciate the work that you do. I stay on your website a lot, especially on the snapshots,
Yeah.
because it's some really intriguing stuff on there. I suggest anybody go check it out if you have the opportunity, man. Just thank you for coming and just sharing with us, man. Let everybody know how they can keep in touch with you, and you got to spell the website because people are literally going on background because it's not how it sounds.
Yeah, so on background, ON, that's easy, on just regular on, and then background is just without vowels, so it's BCKGRND.com. And you can find me, Roberto Alejandro, Twitter. You can find me, Roberto Alejandro, Facebook, on background Instagram, on background Facebook as well, spelled the same way as the website. So yeah, I'm out there.
Appreciate you, man. You got to come chop it up with us again.
No, definitely, soon. Absolutely,
man. And Atia, we want you to come back at some point too, because I have some other stuff that I want to talk to. I'm sorry, Mecca. I know. I'm sorry. Yes, I have some other stuff that I want to talk to you about as well. But Roberto, we definitely appreciate you coming, man. And,
appreciate you.
Like I said, if you get a chance to go check out his website, really, take some time. That's not something that you can sit down and for 5 minutes and just skim through. It's some really interesting stuff on there, some really in-depth stuff on there, and just the fact, man, that you just got the heart to just go throughout the city and just do what you do is great, man. Appreciate it. All right, man, we're gonna take another break, and then Jen was on the phone when she walked in, so it's no telling what kind of juice she has for us today, but we're gonna definitely let her do her thing. We're gonna come back with